This Selten watch is the first watch I've ever had to pre-order. Prior to this purchase, I've only ever had to wait a maximum of 3 weeks between pressing buy now and the watch arriving, and that has meant that I've had to wait a whole 6 months for this new watch to arrive. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches, and I'm talking about a watch that I waited 6 months for. Yes, this Selten finally arrived on my doorstep yesterday, and I'm going to share with you the things that stood out to me straight away after opening it. But I have to say, that 6 months waiting period was a rather hard 6 months because it was a bit of a roller coaster for me. When I had initially decided to purchase this watch and press that buy now button, I was really excited. I was excited to have a watch that looks like this, that is so different to something that I've had in my collection before. And I started watching videos and I started looking at pictures. But then after waiting a little bit of time, I then started to second guess my buying decision. I even thought perhaps I should cancel the order. But I got past that and I got excited again. I then second guessed myself again. And then, to be honest, I completely forgot that I ordered this watch. And then I received that email a couple of weeks ago to say that my Selten has been dispatched and it is on the way. Now, you probably saw that sponsored icon pop up, and that is because when I was discussing this watch with Selten, they offered me a small discount to purchase this one. I did pay the majority of the watch cost of this one, but yes, I did get a little bit of discount, hence that pop-up. And I'm also, because of that, going to leave a link directly to the Selten website down below. But today is more about just showing you the things that stood out to me straight away. As soon as I pulled this watch out of its box, what stood out to me? And let me show you. This Selten 00.10B natural meteorite is a really cool watch which comes in really cool, interesting packaging. Also with a spare strap, polishing cloth, and heaps of spare links, plus some half links because it is a butterfly clasp. But that's not what stood out to me when I opened this watch to begin with. The things that stood out to me were actually quite special because I think this watch is something a little bit special. So as soon as I opened this watch, there were 6 things that stood out to me. And the first of those 6 things is really the only negative thing, and it's not that negative. You can see there's a scratch right there on the bracelet there. I did that. And I did that because of the pin and collar system and how hard it was to change that pin and collar system. I actually quite like pin and collar system, but I don't like doing it. I like it once it's done and then it feels nice and looks good. This one was just a little bit of a struggle to do and change and then put the pins back in again. So much so that I ended up scratching it, but that's my fault and I already feel bad about it. That slight negative aside, there are 5 further things that stood out, including that meteorite dial. And realistically, I pulled it out and I looked at it and I thought that looks fantastic. But then I looked closer through a loop and then through my camera doing sort of macro footage, and wow, did it shock me how amazing it is. I like the play with the light. I like the interesting textures of those sort of crystalline features, but I just think it looks fantastic. And then you see the next point, which is how 3D this dial is with those indices and how high they are off that dial. Really gives some movement and 3D effect, and I really like layers on a watch. I think looking through those sapphire crystals, seeing those layers really make watches extra special, and this one definitely has it. And although I may have already put some damage to this bracelet, it is very nice, and it was the next thing that really stood out to me because it goes from 20 all the way down to 16 millimeters. It's a dramatic taper, and that really gives you a nice on-wrist experience and even elevates the feel of the watch. It makes it feel a little bit more luxurious, which this watch has many luxurious elements, and that's one of them as well. And I do really like this custom rotor. Definitely something that stood out to me. It's a very different looking rotor, but it's also well made, and it's just different to have it like that. And I actually really like it. It stood out to me. Look at the striping on it. Really, really nicely done, and something a little bit different, which I did enjoy. And lastly is the overall quality of this watch. When you look at all the elements, when you look closely, when you look at how it's been brushed, how it's been polished, how it's been tapered, how it feels, all those elements on the dial, it's definitely the quality. It really stands out. It feels like a very well-made watch. And I like that it has a sort of a dressy yet everyday sort of wear to it, partly because of the size, partly because it's got some lume, partly because of the design, I don't know, but it just feels like a watch that I could wear a lot, but I could also wear to the office if I wanted to. Now you may wonder, what is that moon phase thing? Well, it's kind of like a day and night indicator. As the time goes around, as you can see, that spins around and gives you that day-night indicator. It's kind of nice, something a little bit different. You'll also see that second hand is blued, which is nice. Just lots of elements, lots of thought, and lots of sort of preparation. Obviously, when making this watch, there's probably been quite a few phases of trying to make it the best that it can be. You'll see that even on simple things like this butterfly clasp, look how nicely finished that is. It's one of these two-stage ones, which when you put it down, you then have to use it this side because then it has the Selten logo. And when it closes, it just looks fantastic, almost seamless. And with that dramatic taper on the bracelet, plus the overall dimensions of this watch, plus just how it looks, I think it looks absolutely fantastic on my 6 3/4 or around about 17 centimeter wrist. Something that I'm really going to enjoy wearing. And because it's so different to some of my other watches in my collection, I think it's going to be a great addition to it. So I'm going to be wearing this for a while before I come back to do the full review. And while we wait for that full review, maybe check these videos out next.